Mr. Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
Another weekend of football action, folks, comes to a close on this Sunday evening, December 20th. And welcome in, everybody, to the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports talk show. That, of course, everybody, is the night shift on this Sunday night, December 20th, 2020. As usual, joined by the fellow late night host of the MI6 Sports Network, our good friend Isaiah Leung from the home studios in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Callan, McClurg from the home studios here in San Diego. Isaiah, good to see you, man, on this Sunday as we approach the Christmas week here finally on this Sunday as we prepare for one more guest interview on Monday and, of course, the network Christmas special coming up on Wednesday and, as we all know, the Christmas holiday coming up on Friday. But, Isaiah, good to see you, man, on this Sunday. How we doing tonight?
We're not doing good, Callan. We are not doing good. My 49ers are officially eliminated from the playoffs. Today was the death nail in the 49ers season. The way that we lost, it was just so painful. What happened to Nick Mullins was just so painful to watch and so painful to see. I mean, the guy was nearly in tears on the sideline. That's how painful it was to watch. The season's, I waved the white flag on the season last week, but the season is officially over this week. But so it really brings, it brings a kind of a sourness or bitterness to the Christmas week that is fastly approaching. But Callan, I deserve it. I really do deserve it because I think it was one of the night shifts episodes that we did, I think 3 weeks ago, where you and John Alcorn and myself, we were on the air and the 49ers had just beaten the Rams and I was on my high horse. I was like, yeah, the Niners have won, man. The Niners finally won. Nick Mullins is going to lead us to the playoffs. I am off the loser's sofa. I was looking at you. I was looking at John. I was like, have fun on the loser's sofa while I get to enjoy the postseason and, watch my team actually play meaningful football while you and John's Bears sit at home and watch the playoffs. And what happened, Callan? What happened today? My team, my 49ers, become the first team out of the three teams, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Niners. My Niners become the first team to be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So I have to eat a bunch of crow tonight because all that trash talk that I was talking 3 weeks ago, it came to bite me back in the butt.
I don't know. Maybe we should have Steven sing instead of that.
Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. 10 games of losing. Isaiah loses again. Skull, 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 skull. Skull, 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 skull. Still keep on losing. Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. Isaiah loses again. 10 games of losing, Isaiah loses again. He's worse than Stephen Wayne. He's worse than Stephen Wayne. Still keep on losing. Skull, 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 skull.
With that in mind, folks, again, the night shift is on air on this Sunday. As usual, Isaiah and I coming your way every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday for right now. Of course, till we change the format of our network and the revamp lineup takes the air in a couple of weeks on January 4th. But again, 10 o'clock every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday to recap all the big games, big plays, and the big news and scores of the day on the night shift every, as mentioned, folks, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday here inside the MI6 Sports Network. As usual, folks, we'll open things up with our poll question for the ongoing deliberation that is the 31 Days of Hot Takes Challenge. You're voting, folks, for either of us two tonight for the matchup. It's either Isaiah saying that Lonzo Ball is the fourth best point guard in the NBA, and being better than Kyrie Irving against me accurately predicting that the Dolphins would beat Isaiah's beloved 49ers and the Lakers would win the NBA championship in Game 6 against the Miami Heat. Both folks over at Facebook.com/MI6 Sports will have the results of the poll question later in tonight's broadcast. Wanted to say hello real quick to both James Gonzalez and Christy Wilson, who, of course, writes in about the Niners losing to her Cowboys, and also was wondering when that Isaiah loses again video was going to appear. Casey King also writes in his thoughts about his Rams and their very painful loss to the now one-win New York Jets. We'll have more about this game later, but Casey says, good evening, guys, and man, what the hell? The LA Rams were definitely a bunch of Higgins out there today on both offense and defense. Offense first half did nothing, and then second half the offense got it going, and then the defense turned into a bunch of freaking Higgins as well. Unfreaking real. Why do LA sports teams seem to be the first team to lose to teams with worse records? Pathetic performance by the Rams today. Angry face, 2 thumbs down emojis for Casey King with his beloved Rams. We'll have more about that game a bit later in today's program. With that, though, Isaiah, time for you, man, to face the music as your beloved 49ers were in Dallas today, technically in Arlington, to face the Dallas Cowboys. Somehow, though, Isaiah, resilient effort, though, by the 49ers, though, but however, though, man, the Cowboys win, though, 41-33 after probably the worst onside kick attempt I've seen probably in recent memory, where CeeDee Lamb returns the kick, the onside kick to the house for a touchdown. Plus, of course, Isaiah, nothing new here, though, but again, another dreadful day for the 49ers offensive line, again, with sacks, fumbles, turnovers, and once again, it's those issues that, again, keep the Niners once again keep the Niners from winning a ball game, but also the Niners continue, though, Isaiah, in my mind, to keep beating themselves. Bad penalties, bad play, turnovers at the worst possible time. Absolutely horrible. But their lone saving grace, though, Isaiah, they made this game a lot closer than probably a lot of people had, though, with, of course, Mullins and Dalton, again, the game also being moved off of primetime. But, Isaiah, if the Niners don't make so many stupid self-imposed mistakes, they may have won this ball game. I think that the worst blunder, though, that I saw had to be that's the onside kick, though, down by 3, I want to say, the waning minute, and you let the hands team return the kick for a touchdown. And, of course, the offensive line has had their fair share of woes over the course of the season. I know about the injuries, but I think, Isaiah, this team, though, in my mind, is running out of excuses to use. I think you would agree, though, about that. Isaiah, your thoughts as your Niners with that loss, though, again, as you said, though, are in fact mathematically eliminated from the NFC postseason party.
Well, Callan and all of our viewers out there, I recommend you guys right now to grab whatever snacks that y'all want, grab whatever drinks that y'all want, grab those shades, Callan, because they're going to come in handy, because I got this time it's another 5-page rant, a 5-page rant prepared on this game. But you know what? Callan, the 49ers lost this game because they couldn't stop turning the football over. Like you mentioned, the 49ers self-destructed. They turned the ball over 4 times to the Dallas Cowboys 0 in this football game. You cannot turn the ball over 4 times in an NFL game if you want to win. I don't care if you're playing the best team in the NFL or you're playing the worst team in the NFL. If you turn the ball over that many times in a single game, you are 100% always going to lose that football game. And that applies not just to the NFL, that applies to college football, that applies to high school football, that applies to pee-wee football as well. If you turn the ball over 4 times in a game, I guarantee you most often than not, you are going to lose that football game. Callan, if you take away the turnovers from this football game, the 49ers dominated the Dallas Cowboys on both sides of the ball. The Dallas offense couldn't do anything against the 49er defense. The 49er defense was clamping them down the entire day. And the 49ers offense, they were moving the football down the field against the Dallas defense at will all day long. But the reason why Dallas was in this football game and why they ultimately won was because they scored 24 points off the 49ers turnovers. The 49ers, they dug themselves into an early hole when they spotted the Dallas Cowboys 14 quick points after Richie James Jr. He muffs a punt after the defense gets a 3-and-out on Dallas's opening drive. And then Dallas, they get great field position after the muffed punt, and then they immediately turn that into a touchdown. And then on the very next possession, Nick Mullins gets strip sacked by DeMarcus Lawrence, who barreled his way by the guy who is, who is made fun the most of here on this network, and that is Mr. Mike McGlinchey, number 69. DeMarcus Lawrence made Mike McGlinchey look like a JV offensive tackle all day long. It was not pretty to watch. I mean, Callan, half the time I was wondering, if me, you, Steven, Ryan, even Casey King, James Gonzalez, Christy Wilson, they could get sacks on Mike McGlinchey. That is how pathetic That's how pathetic Mike McGlinchey is. He is one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL. Like I mentioned, DeMarcus Lawrence, he strip sacks Nick Mullins, and the Cowboys, again, they get the football in very good field position deep in San Francisco territory, and 5 plays later, they turn into a touchdown, and that is a 14-0 lead right there for the Dallas Cowboys, just on 49ers turnovers alone. And then later in the game, when the Niners and the Cowboys are tied 24 apiece in the fourth quarter, Nick Mullins and that offense, they're driving the football down the field, and what happens? Nick Mullins throws a really, really stupid interception into no man's land. I mean, there were like 3 defenders in that area, and there were only 1 wide receiver, and I was screaming at my TV. I was like, Nick, why would you throw it there, man? Why? What are you looking at? There's 3 defenders there. There's 1 wide receiver. The probability of you getting picked off is super high. Why would you make that decision? It was such a dumb decision by Nick Mullins. And then after, Nick Mullins turns the football over, Dallas, they get great field position. They turn into points. You just can't turn the football over if you want to win in this league. The 49ers, they shot themselves in the foot so many times that we didn't deserve to win this football game. It was a dreadful day, across the board, offense, defense, and special teams. But Callan, I gotta rip my guy Nick Mullins. And ladies and gentlemen, you guys are about to witness some history right now on the MI6. Yes, you guys are about to witness some history right here on the MI6 Sports Network. Callan, I think you should turn that two-way screen right there. But make sure you get your video cameras out and record this, because I'm about to say something that I guarantee you y'all never thought I would say. And that is, Callan, I am officially jumping off the Nick Mullins bandwagon. I am done with Nick Mullins. I am done with that guy. I am like I'm off. I'm official. Like I'm still. Yes, I am done with Nick Mullins. Put that on the MI6 page. Put that on a video camera, put that anywhere. I am done with Nick Mullins after hyping him up like the last 10 or 11 weeks. I mean, this guy is a bona fide scrub. Nick Mullins is not a future franchise quarterback. Nick Mullins is a career backup. I was very, very disappointed by Nick Mullins' play today. Nick Mullins, he doesn't look like the same guy that I saw play back in 2018 that I fell in love with. I mean, this guy that I saw back in 2018, he was very decisive with the ball. He was very confident. He was very agile in the pocket. When it wasn't there, he would throw it away. He would get rid of the ball very, very quickly. Callan, I honestly don't know who this Nick Mullins is. I really don't know. I think, there's someone, pretending to be Nick Mullins, or pretending to be like someone I think might have kidnapped the real Nick Mullins and put this imposter right there on the field. Because I really do not know who this Nick Mullins is. This Nick Mullins that we're watching on the field this season, he looks very scared. He looks timid. He looks like his confidence is shot. There's just something not right about him. Maybe it's because he's never has the time to throw the football, and he's always having defenders in his grill and either getting sacked or getting hit after he releases the football. Maybe that's making him panic, or maybe it's because he's throwing a ton of interceptions lately, and that's shredding his confidence. But that's not the Nick Mullins that I know. That is not the Nick Mullins that I thought was going to be the 49ers' future franchise quarterback. This guy looks like a shell of himself, and for him to make it this far in his career is already quite an accomplishment, because he was an undrafted free agent and he actually made it to the NFL. And I was hoping he would be a starting quarterback so it could have that story would be complete. But unfortunately, someone has taken over Nick Mullins' body, because this is not the guy that I watched back in 2018. I do not know who this Nick Mullins is. I am done with him. I think that, Callan, you might also want to put that two-way screen back up, because you're probably going to gasp at what I'm about to say, and that is Kyle Shanahan should bench Nick Mullins for the rest of the season. I just can't watch. Yes, Kyle Shanahan. Callan, Kyle Shanahan should bench Nick Mullins for the rest of the season. I cannot watch this crap anymore on the field. The season is lost, so you might as well just bench him. Go with C.J. Beathard. See what you have in C.J. Beathard. Maybe he could somewhat be the guy moving forward. But the 49ers, they have major question marks at quarterback. The running backs, which are the bread and butter of the offense, they always seem to get hurt. Every time I see Raheem Mostert in a game, it seems like he's always limping off the field. The offensive line has been well documented, their issues this entire year. All five of the offensive linemen need to be replaced this offseason. In fact, I would try to work out a deal with McDonald's and try to make a trade, and you can trade them all for 30 cups of coffee and a couple of Egg McMuffins and chocolate chip cookies, because honestly, they don't deserve to be offensive. They honestly do not deserve to be offensive linemen in the NFL. They deserve to be behind that kitchen flipping burgers, because that's how pathetic these offensive linemen are. It's over, Callan. The season is over. This season that was filled with so much hope, so much promise, all of that down the drain. And, it's over, man, Callan. I cannot keep defending this team, and I cannot keep being optimistic and keep hyping up, this team and giving the fans false hope. It's over, man. I can see the writing on the wall. It is done. The season is done.
Is it safe for me to talk now?
Go ahead.
You want to just host the rest of the show by yourself? Because I can go and take a nap if you want.
Go ahead, man. I got all of that out of my system. This has been building since that Buffalo game when the 49ers didn't show up to play that game. It just all has to come out. I'm done with Nick Mullins. In fact, you guys see that trash can right over there? I don't know if I can see. You see that red trash can? That's where the jersey resides right now, in that trash can. I took it off after the game and dumped it in there. Done with Mullins, done with the running backs, done with the offensive line, done. What? Oh my God, you had it!
Wow.
Let the tank season begin. Let the tank season begin. It's over.
I think I've set a record for number of times going off camera and leaving the set because of the rant that we have just sat through from the rant master of the MI6 Sports Network. It's definitely not me. It's the guy in Square 2. Obviously, Isaiah, I get the frustration. I may have to keep these close spots. So let's keep these on top of my head as the program does progress. I get the frustration about the team and about Mullins. But at the same time, though, this is going to sound ludicrous, but I think that if the Niners aren't dealing with COVID and injuries every single game, they're a better ball club than what their record shows. They may be the one ball club in the entire NFL, in my mind, whose record I think does not really tell the whole story. They have been through basically to hell and back, and they have been trying to ride, Beathard, mainly Mullins. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything really for me to add on this game, because I think we just heard it all from Isaiah with the rant that we just had to sit through. Plenty of thoughts, though, about this ball game. First from Christy Wilson about, it was so long. It's been about almost 10 minutes since we got to read viewer comments because of Isaiah's commentary. Christy, though, does say, I will give the Niners credit for being tough. CeeDee Lamb returning that onside kick for a TD was cool. James says, Isaiah, should I light a candle for the 49ers? Ha, 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 ... Christy also put the shades on as well. James says, I dream of getting a sack in the NFL one day. Christy also says, sacking Nick Mullins sounds like fun. It's kind of reminds me of like going to like the NFL experience during the Super Bowl week and going to like, you get to like hit like one of the tackle dummies or whatever. Christy with the mind blown emoji when Isaiah said that he is done with his man crush Nick Mullins. Casey, though, with a very great point. Watch them beat Arizona next week, and he'll be right back on the Nick Mullins bandwagon. I think what's going to happen, Mr. King. I agree. James also says, good job for Isaiah letting go of Mullins. James, this is all a PR stunt. This is all a stunt. Just like my rant last night about Ohio State, that was all a PR. That was all a PR snafu. That's all it was. Because I don't get to rant like Isaiah does on these programs. So that whole thing yesterday, it was just a stunt. That was fake. That was a hoax yesterday. Casey also says, so Isaiah will, with all seriousness though, would you draft a quarterback in this year's draft, or do you go back to Jimmy Garoppolo in your mind?
I would draft a quarterback, but I would also bring in a veteran quarterback to let that rookie sit on the bench for a year and develop. Because, a lot of times when rookies are drafted and they get thrown into the fire, you gotta there's your Patrick Mahomes, your Deshaun Watson examples. But not a lot of these rookies always turn out to be those quarterbacks who just step in and have instant success. And Kyle Shanahan, he runs a very, very complex offensive system. So it's going to take the rookie at least a year to learn that system. He's not going to be able to, learn it on the fly and have success right off the bat. So I would bring in a Matt Ryan, honestly, if Atlanta is willing to let him go and rebuild. I would bring in Matt Ryan. I know he's going to cost a lot of money, but I think Matt Ryan, given his success with Kyle Shanahan, I think that Matt Ryan could have a revival under Kyle Shanahan because that's when he had his best season of his career. I would bring in Matt Ryan, give him 1 or 2 seasons as the starter because the 49ers are built to win now. You give him 1 or 2 years. If he takes the Niners to the Super Bowl, great. And then after Ryan, starts to fall off the cliff, then you bring in that rookie quarterback that you drafted to start for you after Ryan leaves the franchise, because the rookie would have at least 1 or 2 years of time of sitting on the bench, learning the offense, and developing.
I would treat it, if you're going to go that route, I would treat it like it's a freshman quarterback who's not quite ready. You have that junior or senior quarterback who's a veteran at the college level. I would, 1 year, and then it's time for him to kind of get moving and get his feet wet, or more so if it becomes a situation of where the season becomes a lost cause, where you can perhaps bring him in, you have nothing to lose and nothing to gain. Casey also says, so Isaiah, Mullins has turned into a Higgins. Remember, Isaiah, Huggies, not Higgins. And also Christy says, how about trading for a bunch of Big Macs instead of coffee? Maybe not. And Christy also says, $80 in the trash, laughing face emoji. I think it's safe to take these off for right now because we're not going to be talking about the 49ers for the rest of the program, but I'll keep them close just in case. But again, folks, as already mentioned here, And yes, Shardle, thank you. Remember, Isaiah, it's Huggies, not Higgins. Thank you to Mr. Gupta for, again, correcting Mr. Leung and his feebled knowledge of brands. By the way, I do need to get this off my chest, though, about that. We were doing a post-show conference call, me, Alcorn, and Isaiah, and for some reason, the brand Johnson & Johnson came up, and Isaiah thought it was Jones & Jones. So we have a video somewhere, folks, courtesy of John Alcorn, of me doing the same thing. Where do you get Jones & Jones, Isaiah, from Johnson & Johnson? It looks like it is a carbon copy of the Huggies Higgins rant. So we'll have more about that at a later time and date. Isaiah wants to counter about that. Isaiah, what do you have to say for yourself?
You forgot one more instance, Callan. Remember USD Tritons?
Where do you get Toreros from Tritons, good sir? Where? That's why that is also why I explicably or intentionally wore this shirt just for you on tonight's program, plus the USD women's basketball team. Shout out to them for their very nice victory at home today over UC Irvine. With that, though, Isaiah will move from a losing effort to a winning effort because the Bears win again. The Bears win again. Too bad it came at the worst possible time. Because, Isaiah, it looks to me, though, that this would play out the way I thought it was going to play out. The Bears win games over Houston, win today over Minnesota, maybe likely win over Jacksonville. But, of course, the game they have to win is the final game of the regular season at home versus Green Bay. And that's where the season, for me, stops because they're not going to beat Green Bay, in my mind, coming up in a couple of weeks to perhaps get into the postseason. But with that, though, in mind, though, Isaiah, the Bears do, in fact, win another big game for Chicago. They knock off Minnesota 33-27. Another stellar performance for the Chicago Bears offense today as, once again, Mitch Trubisky kind of getting himself back to where he probably should have been or where he should be. And also another great effort, though, by the Bears on offense plus the defense, again, raising havoc on Kirk Cousins as Chicago pulls one out. And also big props to Cairo Santos, 4 for 4 for field goals. And has a very impressive field goal streak going on right now at this rate of the season. And, of course, Isaiah, Chicago, it still is a bit bleak, though. But now with one team, sadly, your Niners now in the rearview mirror, now it's Chicago right there on the brink of maybe cracking the top 7 teams. Of course, Arizona, though, did win today, which I think still makes things a bit more complicated for Chicago. But at least, though, Isaiah, they have a chance to at least still sneak in. Maybe they have Jacksonville on the road next week. Then, of course, the big game, January 3rd, against the Packers at home at Soldier Field, which I think is going to probably make or break and probably break Chicago's season coming up in a couple of weeks, though. But also that this loss, though, for Minnesota, very damaging loss, though, too, for the Vikings, who, again, basically both Chicago and Minnesota, Isaiah, were in the same boat today where they both needed a victory to at least stay close in the race for that last spot. Isaiah, overall takeaways as the Bears for the second straight game, though, man, great offensive play. Defense did their job as well, but also the kicking game also, of course, has been pretty much a thorn in the side for the Bears the past couple of years, though, man. I would call this, I think, Isaiah, another complete team win for Chicago. What about you in this win over Minnesota on the road?
Yeah, Callan. First of all, let me say this. I don't know who these Bears are like the last couple of weeks. I really don't know. I mean, these last 2 weeks, the Bears have put up at least 30-plus points in their games after struggling for majority of the season to even get to 20 points. So I really don't know who this Bears team is right now. Mitchell Trubisky looks like a renewed quarterback. He is not making mistakes. He's being very efficient. He was 15 of 21 today for 202 yards, one touchdown, and one ugly interception in the end zone, which thankfully didn't cost the Bears the game after Trubisky threw the pick. But I think the Bears and Matt Nagy are going to what the Niners did with Jimmy Garoppolo last season. They know that, Mitchell Trubisky, he is very, very limited. He's a guy that you have to have successful run game around him and just get him into third and just third and medium or third and short situations and let him complete the short pass to move the chains. That is what Mitchell Trubisky is. Mitchell Trubisky is a game manager. He's not a guy that's going to put you on his back and lead you to a victory. You have to have the running game going. You have to have the defense going for him to succeed. And that's what happened today. The Bears ran the football really well in this game. David Montgomery, he went off. 32 carries, 146 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Mitchell Trubisky himself, 8 carries for 34 yards using his leg and his arm. The defense was phenomenal in this football game. It was just a complete team effort by the Chicago Bears. And I think that's what the Bears have to do moving forward. You know, they got to establish the running game. They have to get Mitch to not do too much, not turn the football over, and play good defense. And I think the Bears will have success moving forward.
You know, Isaiah, I agree, though, with you in regards to, you know, I even said that, I think, after the game is like, where has this offense been all season? I even told a lot of my coworkers at USD today because we were kind of talking some football before our game today. And I'm just like, you know, I root for Chicago. And it's like, I've not seen this offense play all season. I think the last time that we saw that was when they, of course, had that comeback versus the Falcons down in ATL when, of course, Nick Foles came in to relieve Trubisky. But I agree, though. It's kind of like, to me, this looks like the Bears finally may have perhaps found, you know, obviously found some offense. But I think, though, Isaiah, to me, though, it's still too little too late because of the nature of, like, I still kind of feel like, though, that Detroit loss, though, really hurts because they would have won that game. Then you come back and beat Houston. You beat Minnesota. You have 3 straight wins right there. Heading into Jacksonville next Sunday, a chance to win that game, win 4 in a row, and put yourself in a very prime spot to kind of have your own destiny and control, though. Now, of course, Arizona right now has that 7th spot. Tampa Bay has the 6th spot right now, and it's very close. But Chicago, though, they've put themselves, I think, though, Isaiah, still, despite, you know, that loss to the Lions, they're still in a okay place. I'm not going to say it's a good spot or a great spot, but it's an okay place for the time being. Now, with that, though, Isaiah, for Minnesota, I think James said it right, though. He even wrote, though, in the comments, Isaiah, he says, I was wondering which Viking team was going to show up today because I think, though, that James would agree, though, Isaiah, and he has said this a lot, though. The Patriots and Vikings are the same exact ball club in a nutshell. They're great one week, and then they have a terrible effort the next week or a bad game the next week, Isaiah. What do you think went wrong more so in your mind for Minnesota against Chicago in their loss at home today in Minneapolis?
Well, first of all, they couldn't stop the run. I mean, anytime you give up 146 yards rushing to a running back, that's a big problem. I just don't understand, like you mentioned, Callan, I really don't understand this Vikings team. They are kind of like the Jekyll and Hyde of the NFL, where one week they play really good football. The next week they barely survive a last place team in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then they play really good football. Then the next week they lay an egg. You know, it's just really confusing about this Vikings team. Mike Zimmer, who was supposedly a defensive genius. I mean, the defense has been garbage all season long, despite them adding Yannick Ngakoue, the star pass rusher in the offseason. They added I believe Everson Griffin to help stop the run. And the running game has just, or the run defense for the Vikings has just been terrible all year long. Last week, Tampa Bay, Ronald Jones, they ran wild against Minnesota. And now with this week, you know, you have David Montgomery going wild against the Minnesota Vikings. So I really don't understand this Vikings team. You know, they are supposed to be a very stout defensive ball club. But for some reason, this year, it's not the offense that is the problem. It's the defense. And that's what is really dumbfounded about this Vikings team.
I think James is right, though, about them in New England. They're great one week, then they have a terrible game the next week, basically, after some thoughts here about the Bears and the victory over Minnesota. Chardol says, congrats to the Bears, Callan. You know, I would say, though, Chardol, like I said, though, to me, though, buddy, sadly, if the Bears win that game, though, over Detroit, you're looking at them having a 3-game win streak. Detroit, Houston, and then Minnesota. So you have 2 crucial divisional wins, you know, basically in the bag. You knock off Houston, who, of course, we know that they've been very bad over the entire course of the season. But then, though, you have Jacksonville, and then, of course, you have that big game with Green Bay coming up where the Bears could have been in a much better spot, though, than they are right now. Casey, though, with a couple of scenarios here for Chicago, If the Bucks or Cards lose both of their last 2 games and the Bears win both of their games, Chicago gets the tiebreaker over both Tampa Bay and Arizona. I know about Tampa because the Bears beat them earlier in the season thanks to Brady's brain fart on fourth down when they won 20-19. That the Bears were lucky to win that game, if you ask me. But also, Isaiah, I'm going to guess. I probably shouldn't guess, but I'm going to assume it's going to be the strength of schedule that perhaps is the tiebreaker for Chicago over Arizona.
I believe so. I think the NFL goes by if you both have the same record. I believe if you guys didn't play each other, I believe it goes by strength of schedule. I think the Bears were facing the AFC South this year? They were facing the AFC South, while Arizona was facing the weak AFC East and also the weak NFC East. And I think the Bears were facing the AFC South, plus I think they were facing the NFC North, I gotta say.
Other than the North, that's divisional play, yeah.
So that's the NFC North not the NFC North, the NFC South and the AFC South. They're both much stronger divisions than the NFC East and the AFC East. So obviously, I think that Chicago has that edge in terms of strength of schedule over Arizona.
Tiebreakers are confusing. With that, again, James wrote in and said, I was wondering which Viking team was going to show up today. Props to the Bears for the win today. 2 games in a row. I think it's also 3 games in a row. 3 games in a row for the first time, I think it's since 2013, I think, that the Bears have scored 30-plus points in 3 straight games. I might be wrong on the year, though, but 3 straight games with them having 30 points or more. Of course, Sally, one of those games, though, was a loss to Detroit in a very, very heartbreaking defeat for Chicago, blowing a 10-point lead with 4 minutes left to play in the ball game. Also, our man Angel Berrigan Jr. is on board tonight. He says Vikings just underachieve, plain and simple. Chicago must run the table to at least have a shot at the postseason. And he also says about the tiebreakers, you would think they go by the conference record as a tiebreaker. You would think, though, but obviously it's not that, Isaiah. Again, tiebreakers are very weird in pro sports.
Yeah, it is very weird, Callan, but I don't know. I get this sense, and I'm not trying to hate on the Bears, but I get this weird feeling that the Bears, after like the emotional high of the last 2 weeks, I just get this feeling that the Bears would lose to the Jaguars. Like, I don't know why. Like, I just have this weird feeling because I know the Bears have lost some really, really bad games this season. So I don't know. I just get this feeling that they will lose to the Jaguars. But if you look at Tampa Bay's schedule, it's really easy. The final 2 games, I believe they have Atlanta to finish the season. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it might be Arizona. It might be Arizona. And that's going to be a huge game between those 2 next week.
So also real quick, Tyler Work actually has the NFL tie-breaking scenarios. Head-to-head, record versus the conference, record versus common opponents, strength of victory, strength of schedule is the top, or is the 5 tiebreakers that the NFL does use. It's still, though, very confusing regardless. Because I think we know about head-to-head, but then you kind of get more and more and more tied. It's kind of like, where's the coin flip? Where do you just flip the coin and say, okay, we're tied in every single category. Can we just flip a coin and see what it lands on? And Shareable Steve behind the scenes says that Tampa Bay will have Detroit and Atlanta coming up for their last 2 games of the regular season. But again, the Bears get back to 500 as they knock off the Vikes on the road. 33-27 Chicago over Minnesota from US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. With that in mind, Isaiah, to another game down in the NFC South, Tampa Bay against Atlanta. And with that, Isaiah, but sadly, man, the Falcons choke again. The Falcons choke again, leading by 17, and they choke again. So it is what it is, Isaiah, as the Bucs win 31-27 after the Falcons once again implode and blow a lead. With that in mind, Isaiah, you can take away Dan Quinn, but he can't take the choking jobs out of the Atlanta Falcons, man. 17-0, and of course the Bucs come back and win. There's just something, I think, Isaiah, now when Matt Ryan sees Tom Brady on the other side of the field, he's like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, it's very, very crazy, man. I really don't understand why the Falcons keep choking these games. I mean, they were up 17-0. Their offense was rolling. Their defense was actually playing great for once. And then it all went down the drain in the second half. You know, Tom Brady, this is why he's great. This is why he is he's the greatest quarterback of all time. It's because, like, there was no panic. There was no, oh my gosh, we're going to lose this, or we're losing 17-0. No, Tom Brady was like, I've been there many times. I've done it many times. Let's just keep playing our game, and we're going to win this game. That's what happened. Tom Brady, he was 31 of 45, 390 yards, 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette finally came alive in this football game, 14 carries, 49 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. But I think what really changed the Buccaneers' fortunes in the second half was they finally started to get Antonio Brown the football. I mean, Antonio Brown was going off in the second half. Mike Evans got going once Antonio Brown got going, and the Falcons had to put all their attention on Antonio Brown. And then also Chris Godwin, he got going a little bit in that second half. I think the catalyst for this game was Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown, with his speed and his deep threat abilities, it made it easier for Mike Evans to go across the middle and make those tough across the middle catches that opens up that Tampa Bay offense. And I feel really bad for the Falcons fans, because it's like a habit down there in Atlanta. And forget like the coach being the culprit of always choking. It's like a habit for the Falcons to always choke these games. So I hope that they get rid of that curse that has been laid upon that franchise.
Man, if it's not the Falcons, if it's not the Braves, the Atlanta Dream, or Atlanta United down there, man, oh man, it's got to be rough times to be an Atlanta sports fan. And I shared the pain of those great people that are sports fans down in ATL, because I mean, my goodness, 28-3 in the Super Bowl, a 3-1 lead in the NLCS against the Dodgers in 2020, 3 straight WNBA Finals appearances. You lose all 3 of those. I mean, obviously, Atlanta United wins the MLS Cup a couple of years ago. Of course, the Hawks have not been very good over the past several seasons, but man, oh man, tough times down there for the great folks in Atlanta. But once more, the Buccaneers, though, thanks to a great comeback against Atlanta, win 31-27 after, once again, though, the Falcons blowing a 17-point lead and not being able to hang on for the victory in this ball game. And we also should mention Georgia Bulldogs also blowing games as well in the great state of Georgia. So the apologies to all the sports fans, both pro and college, down in the Peachtree State. With that in mind, Isaiah, a few thoughts here real quick about this ball game. First of all, Tyler did find where the coin flip does lie in the tiebreakers, 11th. Okay, what's in between 5 and 10 is what I want. What's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, though, for all of these, tiebreakers for pro football. Angel also says now that the Chargers are winning again, they lost their song. Yeah, it'll be back, though, very shortly, I'm pretty sure. But also, he says that the Falcons are the best 5 and 9 teams in NFL history. I mean, they've had so many heartbreaking losses, it's impossible to keep tabs on that. Also, Angel says a late bye week helps the Bucs. They'll be playing like they are back in September. And Angel says, I don't mind the Braves choking. Sadly, I do. Also, Tyler says, please don't forget about the Georgia Bulldogs. I did not forget about them, Tyler, do not worry. And also, Casey says, Callan, don't forget, they lost both their hockey teams in Atlanta to Calgary and the Thrashers to Winnipeg. Do, in fact, remember as well. And Angel is saying, does the IHL Turner Cup count with the Atlanta Knights winning 1? I'd say yes, because the Gulls have 5 Taylor Cups in 95 to 2006 in the WCHL, so I'd say yes. And I believe there might be a video somewhere on YouTube of the old IHL Gulls having a line brawl in the postseason versus Atlanta, I think in the conference finals, I want to say. So with that, Tyler is back with the other tiebreakers for the NFL, Isaiah. Number 6 is the best combined ranking among conference teams in points scored and allowed. Best combined ranking among all teams in points scored and points allowed. Best net points in conference games. best net points in all games, and best net touchdowns in all games. Okay, enough. My brain is totally fried now.
Why do you make everything so complicated, NFL? You know what you should do? Forget all those tiebreakers. Forget the coin flip. You know what you guys should just do? Nobody watches the Pro Bowl, so get the Pro Bowl out of here. Move the postseason back 1 week, and what y'all should do is have that final week be for those teams that are tied to play one game, and winner take all goes to the postseason. I mean, fans would tune in a heartbeat to watch that game. It would bring so much excitement to the NFL.
Make it like game 163 in Major League Baseball. I am all for it, Isaiah. Great idea.
Yes, they should do that, man, because you have 1 week to spare because the Pro Bowl, come on, really? It's this game this game, week 18 idea would basically be better than the Pro Bowl. People don't tune in for that. People, I guarantee you, would tune in droves for this.
Angels on board for week 18, and he says, I thought the CFP was complicated. I mean, look at this. Best combined ranking among conference teams in points scored and points allowed. Best combined ranking among all teams in points scored and points allowed. Best net points in conference games. Best net points in all games. Best net touchdowns in all games. And then it goes to the coin flip. No, that's way too much. And also, Casey says, great idea, Isaiah. I'm all for it as well. I think we're all in favor of that idea. With that in mind, though, Isaiah, the New York Jets were, of course, stumbling in with a 0-4 on the season, but they finally win a game, but blow the top overall pick as well with this victory. And it comes, though, Isaiah, at the hands, sadly, of Casey King and the LA Rams, who looked absolutely way out of control in this game and did not look like themselves today. 23-20, the men in green finally chalk up their first win of the season over Los Angeles from SoFi Stadium, as the Rams just did not look like they were all there today with this ball game as the Jets finally win. But with that win, though, folks, easy for me to say, but with the win, though, the Jags have now vaulted the Jets for the top overall pick in the 2020-2021 NFL entry draft. Isaiah, obviously you're laughing because the Rams lose. It's a divisional foe of yours that loses. But man, oh man, much like your beloved Trojans, Isaiah, and your beloved other college football teams who blew their chance on Saturday or on Friday, the Rams play their worst game at the worst possible time. Isaiah, your thoughts as the Jets finally win, though, but at the same time, totally screw themselves right now out of the top overall pick. What do you got? Isaiah, you're muted, buddy.
Callan, I just can't stop laughing because this is honestly what's going to end up happening tomorrow. We are going to have to put flyers out on every single light post all over Los Angeles tomorrow. I might have to, take a jet down there to help you out and pass out those flyers because John Mathis is going to be MIA tomorrow. We are not going to see Mr. Mathis until possibly after the New Year. So, I hope that we can plan something out because we definitely need to get John Mathis on the show tomorrow. But I highly doubt he's going to come on. But about this game, the Rams, they just look like they weren't interested. This entire football game. I mean, the Jets looked like they wanted it more. Jared Goff struggled early in this football game, and the offense just really never got going in this game. I mean, even late in the game when the Rams were trying to come back, there were several drives that they just, shot themselves in the foot. I mean, they nearly tied the football game with a touchdown, but that got called back because of a holding penalty. There was just so many miscues by the Los Angeles Rams that just, derailed their chances of winning this game. I don't think it was the Jets winning this as much as the Rams just, self-destructing in this football game. The Goff interception really hurt, but the the big penalty that hurt was the holding penalty, because you had that touchdown and it got called back. And once it got called back, I believe the Jets got a sack after the hold, and then it was the Rams had to kick a field goal, and then they never saw the ball back. So it was the Rams just, self-destructing all day long. And the Jets, they deserve to win this game, but the Rams should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Isaiah, because I think I may have said this a couple times, though, again, from my time playing sports. You have that game on the schedule where you're just like, okay, cut and dry, wash the hands, easy day at the office. And it's anything but that at that rate where that team that probably has that bad record, they're still playing for pride and passion. They're not going to just mail them a season because they're 0-13 or they haven't won a game yet. They're still playing, with great determination and pride and passion to win a game and kind of get that, monkey off their back. But I think that more so, to me, though, it was too big of a hole that they put themselves in, though, that they had to dig themselves out of in the first place. But also the holding penalty broke the Rams' back today. But also the Jets win. And I think I even saw a tweet, Isaiah, that one of my Twitter followers had retweeted. And it said that someone had called one of their friends who's a diehard Jets fan. The Jets fan was crying because he wanted them to lose the game. That just tells you, Isaiah, how that organization and the fan base back there in New Jersey really feels right now about the Jets at this rate. But again, the Jets do win, though, 23-20 over the Rams. But also, as we already have said, though, that also blows their chances right now of the number one pick. Because I believe, Isaiah, that also boils down to a tiebreaker favoring Jacksonville over the Jets right now.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars right now have the tiebreaker because of strength of schedule. I know my guy Nolan Harmon, shout out to you, Nolan, continue doing great work as you're doing right now for Hollywood. But Nolan Harmon, who's a lifelong Jags fan, he was on Twitter today, celebrating like the Jags won a Super Bowl when, the Jets were in victory formation. He was popping champagne and all that stuff. So, the Jaguars fans right now are living the dream. They're celebrating like crazy because this is basically their Super Bowl victory. And for an organization that hasn't tasted or hasn't been to a Super Bowl, this is pretty much the second closest to it by getting Trevor Lawrence. And I'll tell you this, Callan, Trevor Lawrence, I think, should be thanking his lucky stars that the Jets won today, because who wants to end up with the Jets? The Jets are kind of like the New York Knicks of the NFL. Plus, you're going to be in the New York media. You're going to be criticized, for everything that you do, good or bad, in that media market. So I think that going to Jacksonville in a small market, in an area where he actually, I think, grew up like 60 miles from Jacksonville. I might be wrong on that, but he grew up very close to Jacksonville. It's better for him to go to Jacksonville and start his career there and not be under so much pressure to have to deliver right away than be in New York. But Callan, the one last thing I wanted to add about this game was when we talked about the Rams, right? The last 3-4 games, we've talked about how why the Rams were so successful is because they've reestablished their dominance on the line or in the line of trenches. They dominated the Patriots, offensive line, or the defensive line dominated the Patriots offensive line. They made it very hard for Cam Newton to throw the football. The offensive line, they dominated the Patriots. They dominated the Cardinals. But I didn't really see that domination in the line of scrimmage today. It was more of the Jets that were dominating in the trenches against the Rams, and that is never good. That's never a good thing to see. A team that is, fighting for a playoff spot, getting bullied by a team that is, in the dumps right now and vying for the number one pick.
Most definitely, and again, the Jets win, folks, 23-20 over the Rams. And again, that win right now solidifies the Jags getting the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. Some thoughts, Isaiah, rolling in about this game, and also one more idea for Tyler for the tiebreaker. He says the tiebreaker should be like the old XFL coin toss. Each team picks a guy, and they have a 15-yard scramble to get a ball on the 50. Hopefully no one blows out their shoulder and misses the whole season like in the old XFL. That'd be hysterical if that happens. Angel says about the Pro Bowl, it used to mean something back in the day, but not now. It's not even much of a game if you ask me anyway. James Gonzalez chimes in to say, only the Jets can ruin something by winning. Not hating on them, but I wanted to see a unperfect season. Angel says, yeah, the Rams lost to New York, but the good news is they're the 5th seed right now and would play Washington in the postseason on the road as well in Landover, Maryland. Casey already said, like I said before, they turn into Higgins today. And I also think that they were looking ahead to next week versus Seattle. Very true, very valid, as I have said, though, Casey. And again, I have been there before. I can speak to that, where you, again, if you've played sports, you know that there's probably a team, they're like, okay, we got this in the bag. I mean, blunt honest here. First time playing varsity baseball my sophomore year, we had one of the worst teams in our league come in and play us our first game. And we had that same mentality. Okay, we got this. We lose the game 6-2. We're running for an hour when the game's over. So I've been there plenty of times, and never, ever underestimate your opponent when you're playing sports. Also, Angel says, plain and simple, the Rams took the Jets for granted, and it was the misuse timeout that killed the Jets or the Rams. I would go as well with that holding penalty, as Isaiah said, though, as well. James also says, seems like the Rams are so streaky this season. Good 4 games here, bad 4 games there. No consistency. Fair observation. Also, Angel says that the NFL should adopt the draft lottery. Isaiah, how do you feel about that?
You know what? That's actually not that bad of an idea, because if you do adopt the draft lottery, obviously teams like the Jets, teams like the Jags, teams that are notorious losers in the NFL, they will hate it because, they always want to, lose out and get the number 1 pick, or go 0-16 and get the number 1 pick. The draft, if you have a draft lottery in the NFL, it would eliminate that idea that teams have where, we go to 0-16. Who cares if we're going, basically, if you go 0-16, it's like there's like a reward at the end of it, Like you would actually give the team, or you would take that reward away and give the teams like an initiative that they actually have to try to win a game instead of tanking. Because I think that tanking, it ruins basketball. It's ruining baseball. There's not really tanking.
Baseball and the MLB and the NFL are the same way. The worst record gets the overall number 1 pick.
Yeah, and you've seen it with the Astros. Back when they were really bad, they were honestly tanking. But the NFL, they should do it, because I just hate the fact that teams are desperately trying to go 0-16 or 1-15 or whatever, and just keep losing just to try to get that top draft pick. There shouldn't be a reward for losing. You should have to try to win every single week, instead of having that mindset like some teams do, that, oh yeah, let's just lose this week and we can get that number 1 pick and secure our future for the next 10 years.
Basically, I think that it's done wonders in the NBA and the NHL. I know, of course, that the Sixers had won 3 or 4 straight draft lotteries. Simmons and Embiid go to Philadelphia, and it finally has panned out, but maybe. But again, the NFL is reluctant to changes. Is already Angel. I don't see it happening, sadly, my man, but it's a very good idea, though, in a perfect world, yes. Also, James says, hopefully the Jets are having a party on the flight back to the New York area. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, then again, though, as we heard the stories about the Lions players being away from Matt Patricia, they were having, beers and champagne and pina colada parties, man, when they were on their bye week earlier this season, and they got away from Coach Patricia.
Well, Callan, that just shows you how much they hated Matt Patricia. I mean, but the Jets, I honestly think that the players, they probably will be celebrating the win, because the players don't care about tanking. Heck, none of them are even guaranteed to be back next season. I mean, Sam Darnold, he's not guaranteed to be back. The offensive linemen, the wide receivers, the running backs, the defensive linemen, all of them are not guaranteed to be back. And so for them to work their tail off and to finally get that win that has been eluding them for so long this season, they're definitely going to be partying on the plane back to the New York area. And trust me on that, because my 49ers started 0-10, and then we finally won a game by beating the New York Giants back back in 2017, and they poured Gatorade on Kyle Shanahan in the locker room. They poured Gatorade on him, and they had a big boom box, and they were like dancing and jumping for joy like they won the Super Bowl. So, of course, yeah, they're going to be partying tonight.
You know, I know that we love to rain on Adam Gase's parade, Isaiah, but I think he had a very great quote before we move on to our last game of the night and we get to one headline story, is that Adam Gase said it best, because there was some snippy New York reporter asking, how do you feel knowing that the fan base wanted you guys to lose out? He said, we're trying to win games here. We are trying to win and play our best game every night. I don't want to, basically in a way, he's like, I don't want to hear about this tanking nonsense. We're here to win and play games and win the game. We're not here to tank and lose these games. And I thought it was a very great response for obviously a guy who's bound to be fired when the season's over. But I think for a saving grace for Adam Gase, that answer is probably my favorite answer for the season. Is, you know what? Screw your logic about tanking. We're here to win games. We haven't done that yet, and we're still going out there and playing as hard as we can. We're going to go out there and try to play and win and go for the W, basically. Isaiah, back over to you.
Well, and Callan, one last thing about this game before we move on is, the Isaiah jinx strikes again. For the last 3 weeks, we've been having this question debated on various programs here on the MI6 Sports Network. And, the question was, who is the best team in the NFC? And I said for the last 3 weeks, the Los Angeles Rams are unequivocally the best team in the NFC. They're better. They have more, or they have less question marks than all the other teams right now in the NFC. I mean, Jared Goff is playing well. The defense is playing lights out. The offensive line has finally regained their confidence, and they're reestablishing that dominance at the line of scrimmage. They are running the football extremely well. Robert Woods is a beast out there. Cooper Kupp is a beast. And then what happened? 3 weeks later of me saying that the Rams are the unequivocally favorite in the NFC, and my pick right now to go to the Super Bowl, they lose to an 0-14 team. Unfreaking believable, Callan.
Just your luck, big fella. Some more thoughts real quick. James Gonzalez, Jags fans partying hard wherever they may be. Tyler Work, tanking is a front office practice, fellas. The players can't afford to tank because they'll be out of a job. Fair observation for sure. And again, I think Adam Gase said it very well, though, in that post-game press conference. But again, the Jets win finally, 23-20, New York over the LA Rams from SoFi in Inglewood, California today. Last game, Isaiah, a great game, but also a huge and monumental game for those Cleveland Browns as they clobbered the Giants 20-6 from MetLife Stadium. But Isaiah, it solidifies and clinches the first 10-win season for the Browns since I was born in 1994. 26 years in the making that the Browns win 10 games. And Isaiah, they're getting ever so closer, man, finally, after so many years of heartbreak, disappointment, 0-16 seasons, quarterback changes, coaching changes. The Browns are close, man, to finally snapping the NFL's record of 18 straight seasons of not making the postseason. But Isaiah, to me, though, man, Cleveland seems to be getting hot at the right time, not peaking too early or stuff like that. Yes, they've had their moments, though, but Isaiah, they're winning games, though, down the stretch, and they're going to, and not just that, Isaiah, they're playing primetime football, and they're playing meaningful football games in Cleveland for the first time since I was born 26 years ago. And, of course, you go out there and clobber the Giants handily on the road, 20-6, the Browns over the Giants. Isaiah, got to be some fun times for those folks back in Cleveland. Isaiah, overall thoughts as the Browns clinch a 10-win season with their win over the Giants on the road in East Rutherford on Sunday Night Football.
Well, Callan, I don't want to take anything away from the Browns. They were the better team tonight. Baker Mayfield is continuing to prove his doubters wrong and shut his haters up. He was phenomenal tonight. He was 27 of 32. 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was very good, especially when the running game, which has been the bread and butter for the Cleveland Browns, they didn't really get going tonight. I mean, Nick Chubb was 15 of 50. He did have 15 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown. Dearness Johnson, 4 carries, 24 yards. Kareem Hunt, 7 carries, 21 yards. So the running game wasn't as effective as we've seen it in the past. So I was like, when I watched this game, I was thinking to myself, with the running game not being effective, this is on Baker. Baker has to show that he was worth that number 1 pick. He has to put his team on his back and lead them to the victory, and he just did just enough for the Browns to lead them to the victory. The defense was amazing in this game. But, Callan, I think that this was more bad Giants offense than good Browns. I mean, Freddie Kitchens, he showed his incompetence. I mean, he showed why that he should have never been a head coach. He showed why he should have never been an offensive coordinator. He's only a position coach. Is because if you watch some of the plays that he was calling tonight, it made you wonder, like, what on earth are you calling, Freddie Kitchens? Like, there was some plays that just absolutely made no sense whatsoever. I know they were dealing with Colt McCoy, in like behind or under center, but still some of the play calls were just so confusing. It was so perplexed. Like, I just don't know what the Giants were running, and the Giants, I know that this probably last year would have sounded really blasphemous, but the Giants need Jason Garrett back as soon as possible. I mean, he's an offensive coordinator that actually can make their offense somewhat competent, because when Freddie Kitchens calls plays like he did last year with Cleveland, you're just wondering, like, what is this guy doing? I could probably call plays better than Freddie Kitchens.
I don't know, man. There is definitely something wrong, obviously, with the Giants. But again, folks, more so props to the Cleveland Browns. 20-6, the Browns win over the Giants and again clinched their first 10-win season in over 20-plus years, dating back to 1994, I believe, when they, of course, did last win 10 games in a season for the Browns. Now, Isaiah, real quick, though, man, I don't know if there's a actual award for the league most improved player, not MVP, but most improved player. Isaiah, if there was or is one, do you believe that could go to Baker Mayfield for most improved player?
Ooh, that is tough, Callan, because there's like a lot of candidates out there that are just worthy of that potential award. Baker obviously would be like in there in the mix for that award, but I don't know if I would give it to him, because if you look at the Browns games, like, I know like they're winning, but if you look at the Browns games, he's not really the guy that is putting the team on his back and leading them to victory. Yes, he did it tonight against the Giants, but it's been more of the run game and Baker just, not make any mistakes, get him into third and manageable, and let him, complete that short pass and move the chains. That's what's been the Browns' offensive success this year under Kevin Stefanski. But I'm going to have to look at all the other, candidates before, making a decision on that award. But Baker would definitely be in that mix.
I thought I would just throw that out there, and I think that Kevin Stefanski has got to be Coach of the Year. I mean, he's going to be breaking a lot of curses, a lot of, futility records out there in Cleveland this season. James agrees. So happy for Browns fans. They've been through a lot. He also chimes in to say, horrible decision at the beginning of the game by the Giants to fake the field goal, knowing that they need every field goal that they could get in this ball game as the Browns win 20-6 over the Giants to clinch their first 10-win season in close to 26 years. With that, Isaiah, we had talked about this very briefly on the night shift on Saturday with the very late breaking news revolving around the Tennessee football program. Isaiah, give us a quick recap of what happened last night on Saturday, but also the latest news coming out of Knoxville involving Jeremy Pruitt and his job status with the Tennessee football program in Knoxville.
Well, so it started yesterday morning when Tennessee, obviously Jeremy Pruitt has been on the hot seat all season long. There's been questions surrounding his future at Tennessee, and Tennessee got walloped yesterday by Texas A&M. I mean, it wasn't even a competitive game. The Aggies beat the Volunteers 34-13. I believe the game was in Knoxville. I might be wrong on that, but the Aggies beat the Volunteers. The Volunteers, I think, finished the season 3-7. It was a very pitiful record. And then I believe in the middle of the day, there was a report that came out that there's a recording of Jeremy Pruitt saying that, I don't really care if Tennessee fires me. I would be happy if Tennessee fires me, because if they do, that means I would get to keep my money because they would have to pay a big buyout to Jeremy Pruitt, and then I could just go back to Alabama and be the defensive coordinator under Nick Saban. There was that recording of Jeremy Pruitt saying that, and then during the nighttime, when me and Callan were on the night shift, there was news that broke that Jeremy Pruitt and the Tennessee Volunteers are under investigation by the NCAA for illegal recruiting tactics. In fact, one of the players for Tennessee, I think it was their star running back, Eric Gray, he sat out yesterday's game against the Texas A&M Aggies because it was due to the fact that he was, I think, one of the players under investigation by the NCAA. That's why Tennessee didn't play him. Jeremy Pruitt, after the game, said that, he was just out. He said that he wasn't going to reveal the reason he was out, but it wasn't because of COVID or it wasn't because of his illness or whatever. But it was. There was a report that came out afterwards that it was in fact due to the NCAA investigation into Tennessee. And then today, Philip Fulmer, the legendary head coach at Tennessee, now the athletic director at Tennessee, who made the decision to hire Jeremy Pruitt as his head coach, he made comments today suggesting that Jeremy Pruitt will be back in Knoxville. Yes, he made comments suggesting that Jeremy Pruitt will return next season. He didn't definitively say that Pruitt will be back next season, but if you take his comments into consideration, basically the last part of his comments was saying that I am so happy for Jeremy and his coaching staff. This is a tremendous opportunity for us to play in a bowl game, and it will serve as a primer to spring practice for Coach Pruitt and our returnee. So that just sounds like that Jeremy Pruitt will be staying with the Tennessee Volunteers. And Callan, the Clown Show in Knoxville continues. What's your thoughts?
We've been talking about that one for a long time, Joe.
This literally, to me, makes absolutely zero sense, Isaiah, because it seems to me that Jeremy Pruitt is trying his damnedest, man, to wiggle out of this head coaching spot. Because we even post the program on Saturday, read a bit, kind of dug a bit deeper in the ditch and found that there had been some other reports coming out that Pruitt kind of in a way told the athletic department, well, if you don't want me, fine, because I'm not head coaching material, and I'd rather be going back to be a ball boy and a coordinator on defense with Nick Saban in Alabama. So literally you want out. You want to commit treason, go from your school and go to a rival in the SEC in Alabama or go back to Alabama. But also, Isaiah, I know we see this a lot though, man, but Tennessee is going to keep a coach under investigation for illegal recruitment. Like, what is the next thing that's going to happen to Tennessee football? I mean, as is, or as if that Tennessee is not, the sharpest tool in the machine when it comes to football. But Isaiah, my goodness, man, this just has disaster written all over it, if you ask me, at this rate.
And Callan, you want to know the worst part of this is that after Tennessee, I believe they won 6 of their final 7 games last season, Philip Fulmer this spring gave Coach Pruitt a long-term extension that increased his buyout from last season. I believe his buyout last season, or entering this season without the extension, it would have been like $8 million or $9 million. That's pretty, cheap for especially a program like Tennessee in the SEC. That and look at Auburn, they paid $21 million to get rid of their head coach. Now Jeremy Pruitt's buyout is $25 million. So you basically You tripled his buyout over winning 6 of his final 7 games, and now there's reports that he doesn't want to be there. He's telling people that, oh, I don't care if Tennessee fires me, because if they fire me, I get to keep my money, I get to get paid while being a defensive coordinator in Alabama and winning national championships. I mean, Callan, if I was the athletic director of Tennessee, I would have fired Jeremy Pruitt after I heard those comments by him. I mean, that's treason right there, like you mentioned. Dude, you're supposed to be the head coach of Tennessee. How bad of a look is it when you're trying to recruit kids to play for you, but the head coach doesn't want to be there? I mean, my God, he should have been fired after those comments came out.
Yeah, how dare you say I can go back to a rival school in the SEC because I'm not head coach material. What a turn of events down in Knoxville. Back to you, Isaiah.
I would say he's like Matt Patricia. He's got a big ego. You know, I don't know if you saw this, Callan, but Matt Patricia was trying to do it his way or the highway. And, you know, I don't know if he directly said this. I don't think he did. But there were reports that, you know, Matt Patricia was acting like, hey, you know, I don't care if the Lions fire me, because if they fire me, I'll just go back with Bill Belichick and win Super Bowl championships with the Patriots. Pruitt is the same way. I mean, he came from Alabama as their defensive coordinator, gets a head coaching job, and now he's acting like, oh, yeah, I don't care if Tennessee fires me. I'll just go back with Nick Saban and win national titles as a defensive coordinator. I think that's just utterly ridiculous, man. This guy has one of the biggest egos in all of college football. That's why he's failing as a head coach. You can't have that big of an ego to be a head coach. And, you know, if I'm Tennessee, I'll just be like, good riddance. Go to Alabama and go be a defensive coordinator. It's just ridiculous.
One word, unacceptable. Absolutely pathetic, if you ask me as well. James writes in first to say, Tennessee Higgins. That sounds like a whiskey kind of, if you ask me. About as good as Tennessee Honey from Jack Daniels. Pretty damn close. Christy says the University of Tennessee football team is an absolute dumpster fire. They are, Christy, like I have said, though, Tennessee does not care about football. They are a basketball KW. You and I know that well from watching Candace Parker play in Knoxville, and Tamika Catchings play, and Shamika Holsclaw. That school, like UConn, Tennessee, Kansas, they don't give 2 cents about their football program because they are basketball schools. Duke and North Carolina are also on that list, if you ask me, as well. Tyler says, sounds like an old country singer or a guy that made a living cheating at cards, or both. Okay, Isaiah's reacting to something here. What do you got for us, man?
I just read about Jeremy Pruitt's extension. It was actually a 6-year extension to remain the head. He was literally 2 years into his tenure, and Philip Fulmer gives him a 6-year extension. Callan, forget Pruitt needing to go. He needs to go, but Philip Fulmer needs to go. You talk about Lynn Swann being one of the worst athletic directors of all time. Talk about Philip Fulmer. I think Philip Fulmer has just eclipsed Lynn Swann as the worst athletic director in NCAA. I mean, my God, really? You win 6 of your final 7 games, and you give him a 6-year extension. It's just ridiculous.
Why? Why? Oh, why? Oh, why? Way to go, Tennessee. With that in mind, some more thoughts here. Casey says in USC still has that damn guy named Clay Helton. Angry face, thumbs down emoji. Also, as well, some more thoughts rolling in. Casey also says that Tennessee is another joke of a program. Again, Casey, sadly, though, man, they are not a football school. Again, UConn, Duke, UNC, Kansas, Connecticut, they are not football programs. Casey also chimes in, Pruitt is another Clay Helton, but worse than Clay. And yes, Christy agrees. It's all about women's hoops at Tennessee. For a bit, though, it was, Bruce Pearl running the show, though, with those orange suits, though, that he was wearing. And also, Christy says that this moron gets a 6-year extension after talking crap about Tennessee. Get him out of here. And also Stephen Wang writes in from behind the scenes. This is why you never hire or have ex-coaches as ads. I mean, either way, my goodness gracious. I mean, that is a very weird turn of events going on down there in Knoxville, Tennessee on this Sunday. Isaiah, back over to you.
I think he meant to say athletic directors. I think that might be what he.
Oh, yeah. I catch it now. Yeah. So this is why you never hire ex-coaches or ex-head coaches to become athletic directors. I think it needs to have someone that has a bit more of a better background than just playing games or coaching games at that rate. With that, though, Isaiah, time to get to some fun stuff on this Sunday before we wrap up here for the week and jump in, man, into the network's bloopers of the week. Of course, everyone, we scour the web and look for some great video clips to show you live on air to wrap up the week every Sunday on a better note than just talking sports every program here on Sunday on the night shift. With that, though, in mind, let's get to the first blooper of the night. If I can find the right tab here to do this damn thing. First up, Isaiah, is Gone with the Wind. Rule number 1 when you go camping. After you finish setting up the tent, nail the tent into the ground.
Exactly, Callan. Nail the tent into the ground before you either go inside of it or before you go elsewhere to retrieve other stuff. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing because knowing me, I would probably do the same thing and have the tent fly off. But yeah, come on, man. Nail the tent down before you go anywhere else.
Christy Wilson says that the tent sprouted wings. I think I will say this, Isaiah, that tent definitely had its Red Bull.
Yes. It should be in a Red Bull commercial for sure.
Red Bull gives you wings. Just saying. They do. And James says, tent with a mind of its own. Again, basic 101 of camping. Nail the damn thing down when you finish putting it up. With that in mind, on to the next blooper, Isaiah. The Madden 21 PS5 glitch.
Oh, trying to gauge the sun, and he muffs it.
No, sir! No, sir!
The greatest show on earth, baby. You're gonna make everything happen.
Oh, a good return up past the 30. He's at the 50. Past midfield. The 40. The 30. Still going. And he will score.
Okay. I have worked in sports announcing for 11 years. I have been a public address spotter to assist on plays like that, on tackles for college football. Isaiah, I know it's a game, a video game. I know it's a system glitch, but I have no idea how in the hell I would broadcast or announce that play happening, or how many yards he had lost, or yards that he had gained because he had gone forward, went back, did donuts at midfield, and then was high-stepping and doing his best Deion Sanders impersonation. I don't know how that play goes down as a touchdown because, and also it's a muffed kickoff reception, fumbled, picked up, ran in his own end zone, ran out of the end zone, and it's just like, what in the world is going? It looks to me like Devin Hester and Deshaun Jackson compiled into one right there, basically.
It looked like the guy had 50 cups of coffee. That's what it looked like, and was just, it was just like, was he invisible? Is that what happened? Is that what the player? Maybe he was invisible. Maybe Madden invented a new invisibility cloak around him. Maybe that's why the lineman the lineman couldn't tackle him. But Come on, Madden. Really? You guys have that? Where's the guy just like running around and around in circles, and it's like he's even holding the football with one hand, like being extremely cocky and dancing around with one leg. Callan, Madden's gotta get their act together, and they gotta. This is why I don't play Madden. This is why I play NCAA. It's because you don't really see those type of things happen in NCAA. But I guarantee you, if I was the guy playing that game and that happened, you would probably have a TV broken at that time. I mean, my God.
Plenty of thoughts, Isaiah. Christy Wilson first chimes in. That player is dancing like Deion Sanders used to do back in the day. Tyler Work says, looks like Bo Jackson and good old Tecmo Bowl. Yeah, we're talking Tecmo Bowl here, Mr. Work. James agrees, though, Isaiah. We're fighting if I was the other video game player. Jeez Louise. And, yeah, I mean, that was pretty... Come on. Really? That was stupid. Next up, Isaiah, Sub-Zero.
Ready, set, go.
People doing stupid things on frozen pools. A tradition unlike any other, Mr. Leung.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, Callan. People doing stupid stuff. I mean, what did you expect to happen? Did you expect to really be able to be like Jesus and walk on water or walk on a frozen pond? Like, come on, you knew with your weight that pool, the ice in that pool was going to crack and you would be going swimming in a freezing cold pool. I mean, it's very funny to see it, but come on. Those guys, I'm pretty sure they had frostbite after that.
Why, oh, why would you do that? Well, I want to know.
Callan, I think we have a new name for our bloopers of the week segment. I think we should call it Idiots Doing Dumb Stuff of the Week. I think that would be a much appropriate name than bloopers of.
James agrees. Why do people do that? It should be called Do Stupid Things, Win Stupid Prizes of the Week is what it should probably be called. Last but not least, though, Isaiah, dive.
Hold on. Jack! Jack! Oh! No!
Ow.
Hold on. Jack! Jack! Oh! No!
Holy crap. That's all I can say for that one.
Callan, you've heard about the shot heard around the world in baseball?
Yeah.
I think that was the shot heard around the world because I could hear it from where I was sitting here in Fremont, California. I mean, my God, that belly flop was so loud. I think even
Hold on. Jack! Jack! Oh! No!
It literally sounded like it was a cannonball. That was a belly flop from like maybe 50 feet in the air, I'd say.
I think even higher than that. I think 60 or 70. And that water looks super low too.
I mean, that's holy smokes, man. Wow. That may have broken my sternum if that was me doing that. Christy agrees that was one hell of a belly flop. Tyler says, "Oh," just like a pro wrestling crowd. And James with his best Ralph Lawler impersonation. Oh me, oh my. Good grief. That is wow. I hope that guy just only had the wind knocked out of him and nothing more and nothing less came out of that. With that, though, folks, we'll move on over and wrap things up as we approach the midnight hour and go into tonight's final thoughts. Time to wrap things up, folks, here for this week as we get ready to close down operation for the Christmas holiday coming up very, very shortly, of course, this upcoming Friday. Isaiah, first to you for your final thoughts for tonight's program. What do you got?
Yeah, Callan, before I get into my final thoughts, I want to thank Christy, Chardot, James, Tyler, as well as Casey King. Who else? We got Stephen Wang. Let's see, Angel, and what I'm trying to see. There's a boatload of comments here, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But I want to thank all the viewers out there for tuning in and watching our show tonight. Really appreciate you guys. We're going to have a lot of great content for you guys during this Christmas week and into the new year. So make sure you guys keep tuning in for those. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to also be so much fun to do that 6-hour special that Callan will elaborate more on that. But that 6-hour special to ring in the new year, I mean, it's going to be so much fun to do. It's going to be draining, but hey, it's going to be so much fun to do it. And, Callan, maybe we should think about like having like a New York City style Apple where we could drop it live on the show. But I mean, we got to talk about that after the show. But my final thoughts is, listen, the Niners are done. Season is over. Nick Mullins, I've canceled him tonight with my rant. I'm pretty sure Callan will probably be clipping that once this show is done and putting it on the MI6 Sports Network page and never letting me retract it or letting me say that, I never did that, because it's going to be on the page. But yeah, Nick Mullins is done. Niners are done. Just got to play out the season, and hopefully we get a top draft pick so we can draft either Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, or, hey, I'm down for Kyle Trask after what I saw yesterday against the Alabama Crimson Tide. But Callan, we got a very early Christmas present today, and that was from the University of Tennessee when they brought back Jeremy Pruitt to be their head coach. If you think If you think the last few days has been so much fun and so enjoyable of how we've been like covering this Tennessee clown show, imagine next year during spring practice, summer camp, and fall camp, and into the season next year. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be 9-10 more months of covering this Tennessee clown show. There's going to be funny stories and stupid stuff that breaks every single day. I can't wait. We might need a new show on the MI6 Sports Network just to cover what's going on at Tennessee. Maybe we can call it On Top of Rocky Top or whatever. That could be our new show. But hey, I mean, I would be totally down for it, so we can laugh at Tennessee every time anything goes wrong with that football program and with Mr. Pruitt.
Oh, my goodness. Genius name, but man, oh, man. I have a few friends that have gone to Tennessee, or people I know that go to Tennessee. With that, though, folks, quick heads up for you. Coming up tomorrow at 5 o'clock on Monday, it is SI writer for the Niners and Oregon alum, the one and only Maverick Palak, joining us at 5 o'clock to round out the guest lineup for 2020 at 5 o'clock Pacific time. However, though, folks, due to some things going on at the house with the Christmas holiday, I may or may not be able to be here for tomorrow's program due to just some stuff going on here at the house as we prep for the Christmas holiday for me and my folks. So we'll do our best to be here. If not, we'll have perhaps a fill-in for me along with John Mathis and Isaiah for the Maverick Palak interview on Monday. Then also, folks, coming up on Wednesday at 8 o'clock Pacific time is the Network Christmas Special. So break out Isaiah, have my ugly sweater in my closet. That'll be coming out of the woodworks on Wednesday for the Christmas special. Then, folks, as a reminder, Isaiah, looking at you, Christmas Eve up until next Sunday, there'll be no programming as we enjoy the Christmas break. We'll have a brief return to programming, but with that, folks, as we have already said, New Year's Eve, a 6-hour special as Isaiah tosses the Niners Santa hat to the trash can. Again, folks, a 6-hour New Year's Eve special is coming your way on New Year's Day. As a reminder, folks, of that format, we'll have our East Coast crew, Trevor Williams, Ryan Schreiner, Sri Anand, all host the first 3 hours, and they'll talk all things about football and sports going on. The NBA, in fact, comes back on Tuesday this week, so they'll be able to talk some NBA basketball and stuff of that caliber. And then, of course, with that, from 9 to midnight will be the West Coast gang. So me, Isaiah, John Mathis, And Stephen Wang, Furman Lee will all join you folks at 9 o'clock Pacific time till midnight. And of course, we will find a way to somehow, some way, do the 10-second countdown for both the East Coast crew and our West Coast crew here on the program. So again, it'll be a 6-hour program running wild up until midnight on the West Coast. And then as a reminder as well, everybody, the new program lineup will also debut coming up on January 4th, which again, everyone, we talked about on Saturday, but here is that new schedule for you folks debuting on January 4th with Wild Sports Talk staying in its usual Monday and Wednesday time slots. The Sports Lounge with yours truly, Cal McClurg, 8 o'clock Pacific time is back in operation after a 7-year hiatus for a multi-hour show every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Pacific time. John Alcorn hosts the one-man show at 9:30 in the evening on Thursdays. No BS remains in its usual 6:30 p.m. Pacific time slot on Fridays. Fan Response and the Night Shift pair up for a doubleheader of action on Saturdays, and we're back with the Night Shift on Saturday and Sundays only, starting on January 4th at 10 o'clock in the evening Pacific time. So make your plans, folks, to join us on all of our old and new programming, again, coming your way in just over a week or so. With that, everybody, for Isaiah Leung, for the rest of the cast and crew here of the MI6 Sports Network, yours truly, Cal McClurg, saying goodnight on this Saturday, or Sunday, I should say. We'll see you folks back here with more coverage on Monday, and of course, up until the Christmas special on Wednesday night at 8 in the evening Pacific time, folks. Till next time, good night. Bye-bye.